Today we will talk about an alternative protocol for the treatment of erectile dysfunction. I'll clarify something right away. Here's what Wikipedia has to say about erectile dysfunction. The Food and Drug Administration does not recommend alternative treatments for sexual dysfunction. Many products are advertised as herbal Viagra, natural products to improve erectile function, but their effectiveness has not been clinically proven. I'm telling you, right away, this is a complete lie. If you search for randomized controlled trials of alternatives to Viagra conducted on people, you will find quite a few of them. I will provide links to several such studies at the bottom. They include: we are talking about natural alternatives that are great for erectile dysfunction. There are many studies. I think a quote from Wikipedia is of interest to pharmaceutical companies selling Viagra. If you have erectile dysfunction, you will be glad, because I will show you a number of ways to fix the situation. The first question is, what is erectile dysfunction? It's the same. What is low testosterone? No. Testosterone controls libido and muscles to a greater extent, especially with age. If there is enough testosterone, your mood is generally better. If it is low, you are more likely to be depressed and anxious. But even with normal testosterone levels, there can be erectile dysfunction. I will tell you what to do about this problem. Erectile dysfunction is one of the earliest signs of vascular disease. Yes, the inner surface of our vessels is covered with the so-called endothelium, a layer of cells 1 cell thick. Reptilian dysfunction is a problem with the vascular system. The endothelium is not working properly. Something in the body sends a signal to the vessels to relax so that they open, expand, and allow the blood to flow freely. We are talking about blood flow to the genitals. And that something is nitric oxide. Complete blocking of nitric oxide in experimental animals led to a complete lack of erection. Nitric oxide can reduce or block testosterone. And there is some truth in this. It is also true that nitric oxide can increase testosterone, but one contradicts the other. How so? Super high levels of nitric oxide can suppress testosterone. Normal to moderately high nitric oxide levels triggers the process of increasing testosterone. But no natural remedies, lifestyle changes, which I will talk about, will increase nitric oxide to of a very high level. But the level of nitric oxide becomes very high when taking Viagra and with chronic nerve. That's when nitric oxide rises and acts as a replacement for oxygen. That is, you are not in danger of a decrease in testosterone due to oxide. Nitrogen. Look, at the age of 20 you have 100% level of nitric oxide. You have a lot of nitric oxide. It works well. You have an erection, there are no problems. After 30, nitric oxide begins to decrease. Now you have 85%. After 40, you have 70%. At 50 years old, you have 55%. In 60 to 40%. And at the age of 70, you have 25%. This is a problem. We have lost the ability to relax the vascular system so that blood can flow freely. Erectile erection dysfunction either does not exist or it does not persist because there is not enough nitric oxide in the body. And then people take the so-called Viagra. But does Viagra raise nitric oxide levels? No, it does not increase it. Viagra eliminates another substance that leads to a decrease in nitric oxide levels or its inactivation. Thanks to this, more nitric oxide is retained in the body for some time. The problem with Viagra is that it causes some tiny complications: headaches, redness, low blood pressure. But there are also more serious complications, such as heart attack, stroke, irreversible loss, hearing. Another side effect. Everything around her seems blue, as well as prolonged erections, which is fraught with damage. Penis, and otherwise in complete order. That's why I'm making this video, to give you safe alternatives that can help without creating an even bigger problem. And the fact is that with age we lose muscle mass due to decreased testosterone. Testosterone also reduces inflammation, improves insulin function, normalizes blood sugar, and even prevents bone loss. But the first thing that comes to mind in connection with testosterone is an libido, an interest in sex. With age, when there is less nitric oxide, we actually have less oxygen. As a result, there is called hypoxia, that is, lack of oxygen. With inflammation, there is also a lack of oxygen. This leads to severe damage and fibrosis. Scar tissue appears. And if there is scar tissue and plaques in the penis, there will be problems with blood circulation, as in the vessels. There will be no blood flow. And this is a big problem. The main thing where this whole problem begins is insulin resistance. And it is caused by the use of a large amount of sugar and other empty carbohydrates in youth. And this leads to severe inflammation in the vessels. If insulin increases nitric oxide levels and carbohydrates increase insulin, isn't that? Will it be to our advantage? No, because insulin resistance occurs. As soon as insulin begins to rise chronically, the body says, "Too much insulin, we need to block it. We need to resist it." And insulin resistance occurs. Insulin no longer works. In fact, you have a lack of insulin if you have insulin resistance, and the fuel, the glucose, the intake of which insulin should be provided in the cell, it does not enter them. So the muscles and the whole body experience hunger without getting fuel. People do not see the obvious. It is necessary to eliminate insulin resistance urgently. I'll show you how to do it. Another typical cause of erectile dysfunction. These are various medicines, especially BS are antidepressants as well as tranquilizers. They cause a lot of problems with erections, and with a lot of other aspects of sexual health, as well as beta blockers from hypertension, diuretics, alpha reductase 5 inhibitors. This is a medicine for prostate enlargement, for baldness. But they have a side effect, erectile dysfunction. Let's move on to the protocol on how to increase the level of nitric oxide. After all, this will immediately improve both blood flow and erection. Apparently, beets increase nitric oxide levels better than anything else. After all, it has a lot of useful nitrates, and I recommend it. This is a natural product. You can eat beets, you can drink beet juice powder, because it is very concentrated. Beets the best nitric oxide enhancer. It increases it by 200%. I lied. Something increases it even more. It's a hand. It increases it by more than 200%. But arugula is not usually eaten in the quantities that we can eat beets, especially if it is beet juice powder. Yes, in principle, arugula should be in the first place, but it is easier to drink a lot of beet juice than eating a lot of arugula. Therefore, I put beets in the first place. Among other things, you should think about eating arugula and beetroot salad regularly. Number 3, training. Working out is a very powerful way to increase nitric oxide levels. Think about this. When you increase nitric oxide levels, you also reduce insulin resistance. Even after one workout, insulin sensitivity increases significantly due to an increase in nitric oxide. From 80 to 100% is an increase in nitric oxide after training. What type of workouts best increase nitric oxide and testosterone? These are either high-intensity interval training or strength training. Not a marathon, because marathon running increases cortisol. Long walks will also help, but intense workouts are better. So, there is an absolutely amazing way that allows you to take your workouts to a new level. I don't know if you've heard of interval hypoxic training or not. Hypoxia means little oxygen. A special mask restricts the intake of air, which allows you to simulate training at high altitudes. If you climb high in the mountains, there will be less oxygen. If you train in this mask, limiting the intake of air perhaps. October 15th, 20 seconds, reducing it to some extent, take off and put on the mask. In the course of training, there is a whole system of how to do this. This stimulates the growth of capillaries throughout the body. After all, erectile dysfunction is a problem with blood circulation. Not enough blood is flowing to some parts of the body. Therefore, everything that improves the overall blood flow is very. It is important not only for the genitals, but also for the heart. Therefore, I recommend thinking about interval hypoxic training. They will bring even more benefits of a very different nature. Friends, subscribe to the channel right now and click on bell to turn on all notifications. If you don't select all notifications, YouTube may not remind you of new videos. With this simple actions, you will greatly help the further development of the channel. And we continue. There is also the so-called chlorhydroline. To put it simply, there is a precursor that turns into nitric oxide. It's called arginine, and it's taken to boost nitric oxide. But the problem is that it passes through the intestines, through the liver, and is broken down quite quickly. But if take L-citrulline, it does not follow the usual path, but goes directly to the kidneys. At the same time, the level of chlorhydroline increases more than when taking L-arginine itself. That is, you create more nitric oxide, and it stays in the body longer if you take L-citrulline. If is to take, the nitric oxide level remains higher for 3 hours to 5 hours. You need to take it in the morning and in the afternoon. In the evening to really increase nitric oxide. Nothing I offer is as powerful. A remedy like Viagra. But this is good, because such powerful remedies have side effects, and these natural remedies do not have such side effects. Even if you are 50 and your nitric oxide level is 55%, with these remedies you can raise it to 100% and eliminate this problem. Pomegranate can increase nitric oxide by 30%. You can just eat pomegranate for dinner as a dessert. You can take pomegranate supplements, pomegranate powder. Further, dark chocolate is 85%. There is also 100% cocoa powder. It can be added to coffee in the morning. That's what I do. I love it. The flavonoids in concentrated dark chocolate increase nitric oxide by 25%. So, as I said, Viagra works by preventing the breakdown of something. I have researched alternatives to Viagra. All of them, in fact, are called FD5 inhibitors. I have found a number of such remedies that not only mimic the mechanism of action of Viagra, but also increase the level of oxide, nitrogen. Viagra does not increase nitric oxide, but these remedies do. The first such remedy, and it is the most studied, is a plant called goatweed. I will give a link below to a study involving human subjects, which showed that the goatweed significantly increases nitric oxide and improves erectile function. One of the problems with goatweed is that it is not very bioavailable. So when you take it, your body doesn't absorb as much of it as you might like. How to increase its bioavailability? It is fat-soluble, so consume it with fat or food. And you can also add black pepper to it too, to increase its assimilation. The next remedy is ginseng. It increases nitric oxide levels and reduces nitric oxide loss. In placebo studies, ginseng caused significant improvements. The next remedy is saffron. Saffron slightly increases nitric oxide, but it also causes other effects. It affects the central nervous system. It especially affects mood and neurotransmitters. If you slightly depressed or anxious, Perhaps you should pay more attention to saffron. Did you remember to press the bell? Further, ashwagandha is an adaptogen. I usually recommend ashwagandha for the adrenal glands because it lowers cortisol and increases testosterone, but it also increases nitric oxide. You need to see which of these remedies is most suitable for your situation. You're more stressed, you're more depressed, or not. Choose the product that suits you. And ashwagandha works great if you are stressed. After all, it increases stress resistance. If you have a vascular problem, such as diabetes or heart problems, and have been for a long time, then you may have fibrosis and plaques. You can conduct an examination, ultrasound and so on, to identify plaques in the penis. If you have them, you may want to consider shockwave therapy. At the same time, the vibrations created in the penis destroy scar tissue. There is a very interesting study on this, but this therapy is only needed if there is such a problem. And if there is no fibrosis, there are no problems with the endothelium, then this therapy will not change anything. But it can stimulate the growth of capillaries and all that. So the first thing, eliminate insulin resistance. Switch to a low-carbohydrate diet. Exclude sugar starches. Curiously, insulin resistance develops for 15 to 20 years before developing in diabetes. So many people eat a lot of sugar, and you can't rely on an A1C analysis. It reflects blood sugar levels over 3 months. If insulin removes sugar as quickly as you eat it, especially in the early stages of insulin resistance, a 1C will be normal. One of the best tests is the level of insulin on an empty stomach. It shows the real situation long before the pre-bet. Insulin on an empty stomach should be less than 7 or even 5. I have 2. I prefer it to be very low. I don't eat a lot of sugar. Number 2. Sexual arousal. Erections are caused by various factors, such as visual perceptions. You're looking at something. The feeling of skin touch. By the way, this is the most powerful stimulus of thought and even smell. When you are aroused, these stimuli activate the parasympathetic nervous system, and it is she who causes an increase in the level of nitric oxide. In other words, if you're trying to get an erection, but are stressed, then stress simply blocks all these processes. There are a couple of ways to quickly activate the parasympathetic nervous system. Breathing through the nose. Breathe slowly through your nose. This will increase the CO2 level, and it will increase the oxygen level. This will inhibit the sympathetic nervous system and activate the parasympathetic breathing through the nose. And make sure that your breathing is very even and relaxed. This will slow down sympathetic nervous system and increase nitric oxide levels. We have already discussed training, interval hypoxic training. Your diet should contain the following cofactors. Zinc is not only for increasing testosterone, but also for reducing insulin resistance, improving erectile dysfunction. Perhaps this is one of the most important minerals. B vitamins. Very, very important cofactors for increasing nitric oxide levels. Vitamin D is very important for increasing nitric oxide. Perhaps more important than any other nutrient. Number 6. Insomnia. When you're awake, you're stressed, and you don't allow your body to build up nitric oxide stores. For years. Forced himself to work harder. I got up at 4 o'clock in the morning. It was the worst thing I could do, especially for vascular system, health in general, and for nitric oxide. So, sleep is super important. In fact, you can do everything I'm talking about, but if you don't sleep well, if you don't sleep for at least 7 to 8 hours, none of this will work. It is very important that it is cool where you sleep, especially at night, because in this case the sleep will be deeper. Pink noise is perhaps one of the best ways to induce deep sleep, even better than white noise. And number 7. If you drink alcohol, it can negate all the benefits in terms of testosterone and erection. Oils from seeds. They are embedded in the membranes of blood vessel cells and cause severe inflammation. So oil and seeds too. It is necessary to remove and add omega-3 fatty acids from fish oil. This is very important. Cod liver oil is best. It contains vitamins D and A, as well as omega-3. Getting omega-3s is important, but you may not notice the results immediately. It takes time to replace the oils from the seeds and feel the improvement. And of course, if you smoke, all this smoke gets into your lungs, into the vessels, and really blocks nitric oxide. Hardening. When we immerse ourselves in cold water or take a cold shower, the blood flows from the genitals. The vessels narrow, and then compensation occurs, the vessels dilate, and blood circulation in the genitals increases. The effectiveness of hardening has also been proven by research, and they are very interesting. I want to add to this video is something very important. I've looked at all the reliable, randomized, controlled trials looking for the most effective remedies for erectile dysfunction, such as lifestyle changes, natural remedies, nutrients, and so on. And now I will tell you about some remedies that I have not yet mentioned. There are 8 of them. Number 1. An active lifestyle that combines exercise, weight loss, and a healthy diet. Number 2. Tegel's exercises for pelvic floor muscles. They seem to cause a large flow of blood to the pelvic region and retain some of the blood in the venous region system, and also help with urine leakage. 40% return to normal erection, 34.5% improved it, and 25.5% no change. 40% regain normal function. That's a lot with exercise for free. Number 3. Regular aerobic training, that is, constant training for some time. Number 4. L-arginine together with pycnotenol. Number 5 is red ginseng panax. And number 6 is niacin. This is vitamin B3. Number 7. Elimination of sleep anxiety. And the 8th is acupuncture. I invite you to Dr. Berg's Healthy Keto and intermittent fasting program. It doesn't matter you only starting out or your progress has stalled, this program can help you. A huge number of lessons. There is a video about what exactly to eat, where all the details are sorted out. There are a lot of examples that how to eat. I'll also cover what to avoid in detail. When you are trying to lose weight, you often encounter barriers such as parties and holidays, family dinners, eating stress, eating out of boredom. I will give you solutions that will definitely help you. The next item is nutrition. This is an important part of healthy chum salmon. You need to understand the basic principles of nutrition when it comes to it's about food. Because food is the very bricks from which your health is built. And it depends in the first place. Depends on how rich this food is in nutrients. It's not just about reducing calories, it's also about nutritional substances. I'll give you a lot of information and knowledge on how to recognize what your body is missing, what to do about it, and how to get what you need from food. Thus, this program increases your chances of success and also demonstrates how to do everything right to acquire new healthy habits for the rest of your life.